I were to sort of distill that that arc coming out of 2008, we learned primarily that the power of the central bank in manipulating interest rates and the volume of financial assets is that they can, to a meaningful degree, manipulate the price of financial assets and inflate or deflate them literally by purchasing whatever between 20 billion and at times 120 billion dollars a month, not printing, but like buying between 20 and 120 billion dollars a month of primarily government bonds, and at times, buying corporate credit, right, at various grades, like they did in March 2020. But they don't really have much of an impact on the real economy, except perhaps through the wealth channel, right? Yeah. Everybody kind of, or the segment of society that owns assets feels wealthier because they've got more collateral against which they can borrow and then they can spend, right? Whether it's extracting equity from the home or companies borrowing against their balance sheets, we can borrow and spend. And I guess the signaling mechanism of low volatility, constantly escalating stock market prices, which people sort of perceive as a signal that the economy is in good shape and that they are safe to spend, that they may not need to save as aggressively, right? And over the last 18 to 24 months, we've seen a completely different channel of monetary policy, and that is the expansion of the government balance sheet, where those excess funds were deposited directly in people's bank accounts. And so you've got this massive increase in private savings as a function. And feel free to correct me here if I'm not using the right terminology or whatever, but it seems like there was a massive shock higher in excess savings, and people then were looking at how they could spend some of that excess money that was deposited. Yeah. At the same time, obviously for a wide variety of reasons, including the fact that whole countries were shut down due to COVID, and some efforts towards deglobalization, et cetera, impacted supply chains. So you had this potential for a major demand shock and a major supply shock and a major logistics shock at the same time. And all of those things are still working through the economy, and everyone's going, I don't know what the cause effect is, how large this effect is going to be, or how long it's going to last.
Yeah. Well, that's a great summary, basically, of everything that's going on. So, to me, one of the really interesting things with the deficit is that, and this is one of the things I learned studying the post-Keynesian schools after the financial crisis. You learn that government deficits add to corporate profits if households dissave. So unless the money gets saved by somebody else in the economy, when the government expands their balance sheet, all that money ends up basically in corporate coffers. So I had a million arguments with people back in early 2020, basically saying this is the stock market's going up and it makes total sense because all this money is going to end up right, on Apple and Amazon's balance sheet, basically, because for whatever reason, Americans hate saving, and the private savings rate spiked, but it does that every time that a crisis happens. And, it happened in 2008 and it comes right back down, and Americans save the same amount of their income and the savings rate goes back to, whatever the historical average is. It's actually been, on the sharp decline in the last 20 years. But it in a weird sort of paradoxical way, everything that the government did most benefited corporations, which indirectly benefits households, but who really owns the corporations? Well, the corporations are mostly owned by wealthy people. So in a weird, really paradoxical way, this this huge stimulus that was really targeted at, helping everybody, it very disproportionately helped the wealthiest people in the country.